to get this dirt bike street legal and ready for the road, we're gonna have to install a few parts. And this will be my first time doing any type of comprehensive work on dirt bikes or motorcycles or anything like that. So it will be interesting.
Okay, here's all the parts that we need for the install. You can see here, this is the Tusk Enduro lighting kit. Also here you see the Baja Designs LED headlight, which is not included in the Tusk Enduro lighting kit, but you need a headlight, and this is a great option. Okay, so here is the bike, and we're gonna start by taking off the tank bag. Gotta take that off so we can get underneath the seat and get to where our electrical wire harness already is on the bike. It's an electric start bike, so it does have electric and it does have a battery. I'm gonna put a diagram here of the Tusk Enduro lighting kit harness wiring diagram, and you can see here, if you want to pause the screen, you can zoom in, you can see, but you're gonna get one with the kit regardless, but it's just a good reference for you to have. So all right, here we go. I'm gonna start by taking off the plastics. We're gonna have to lift the gas tank a little bit here just so we can get underneath it to where the wiring harness is, and we can start connecting some things. So we'll lift the tank just slightly so we can get underneath it, and then we start by putting the front of the wiring harness towards the front where the headlight's gonna be, and then run it back towards the battery. Once we have the wire harness in place where it needs to be, then we can start connecting the different lights that we need. So here we're going to start at the tail light assembly, and we're going to do, make our markings with this this tail light assembly, make the markings for the holes, make the dots on top of the fender. Those just indicate where I'm going to be putting in bolts that are going to hold this tail light assembly.
Okay, so we've got all three wires here at the tail section, from our tail light to both of our tail blinkers, and we have the wires all running together towards the front, so we can now bolt this up to this. Now for the bolts, this rear fender didn't have a built-in attachment or a built-in section with bolts or anything like that. So I just had to drill holes, and I'm using these 1/4-20, just standard bolts. They do look a little silly, a little Frankensteinish, but it's what I have, and it's definitely gonna hold it. So that's kind of all that matters to me. As far as looks, yeah, a little wonky, but whatever. Maybe I can find a way to cover that, or I really just don't care. It's all practical. It's not really about looks too much with the bike. I don't want it to look horrible, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. So this will be here. Now the question is, I'm wondering where I'm gonna run these from here. Do I have to drill a hole? Let me get this mounted first, and then I'll figure it out. Now I have regular just nuts I can put on this, or I also have these, I don't know what you call them, crush nuts, something like that. And they're just regular nuts, but in the inside there's some plastic that really grips on, just so when there's vibration, these things can't come loose. So I got 4 of these small nuts here. One. 2.
So there we go, we're putting the other bolts on. Okay, that's all good. Now we're running those wires to the wiring harness, so we got to find a way to get that through. I just kind of ran it underneath the plastic there. I found a little crevice where it fit, and that was fine. I was worried that it would pinch it, but it's totally fine there, so that's kind of perfect. Okay, now that that's all installed there, now we just have to make sure the connectors are right. Some of them take bullet clamps, so that's what I'm doing there, just putting the bullet clamps on some of these leads here. And now what we're going to do is we're going to connect those to the wiring harness. And we can look at the wiring harness diagram again just to see exactly which ones go to which. And it's really just plug and play at that point. We're just plugging that right into the wiring harness, and it's good to go. It's the tail light and both blinkers. Now we're going to connect the brake light. So the brake light is for the rear brake. The state of Pennsylvania does not require you to have a brake light for your front brake, just for your back brake. So that's what I'm going to be doing. So here I'm just loosening up the brake lever right there just to get some more space, taking that one top bolt off. And then what we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting in the banjo adapter there, which is a sensor. So when you press your rear brake, it lights up the rear brake light. So keep in mind, you're probably going to have to bleed your brakes after this. I did. I put brake fluid back in and filled it back up, but some air still got in there, and it was really squishy. So I did go ahead and bleed the brakes. So make sure you have brake fluid on hand. Okay. And then we're just going to connect to the wiring harness, and that's all good to go. Okay, now we're going to make sure we have our proper switches on our handlebars. So here, headlights and the horn switch also here on the left. My handlebar setup is pretty tight, so I did kind of have to move some things around to make it work, but it fit just fine. So the right side, I'm just going to be connecting the on-off switch. The next part, I got to find a place to attach the horn. So I was looking on the frame underneath, and there was maybe some potential spots, but nothing was really good. And I didn't really want to tap in or drill into the frame or the forks or anything like that. So I ended up just attaching it and bolting it to the inside plastic of the headlight, which was kind of perfect. So here I tried to attach these blinkers into my existing Tusk Enduro, into my existing Tusk handguards. The problem was these handguards aren't made to fit blinkers. So I was trying to cut a bevel in there, and it just was not looking good. It was just kind of a mess. So what I ended up doing is just ordering the right handguards that do have the little slot for these indicators, and they weren't expensive. I think they were only $20. So that was fine. So I waited a couple days and got that set up. Here I'm just connecting right to the battery, and they have little loop connectors that the screw to the battery goes right into. So pretty straightforward there. And that's giving us power to the wiring harness. Now at the front of the bike, just to finish things off, we are connecting all of our leads here. We're going to be connecting power here to both controls on the handlebars, so the on-off switch, and also the blinkers, the horn, and the headlight controls, as well as the relay.
Okay, we're going to test out what we have so far. So, waiting on these handguards, waiting on the correct handguard to put these indicators in for tomorrow. So we're going to wait until we get those to put everything in together. Also the headlight, we're going to wait to put that on as well. But I do want to test the lighting that we have set up so far. So that's indicators, And then everything in the back, which is, you know, tail light, back indicators, brake light, on off switch. And I think that's it. The horn I have attached to the headlight, so we're gonna have to wait for that as well. But oh, I didn't. Oh, it's on. So that's working. The blinkers, that left blinker's working. Right blinker's working. Nice. Let's check. Okay, left blinker's working. Beautiful. Right blinker's working. Beautiful. Tail light. Shouldn't that be on? What's this? Ah, it's these. Is it? Yes, it must be. So this has got to go to this. The air gap. Okay, so everything should be good. So do that. Okay, beautiful. Nice. And brake light's working as well. Sick. Everything is working. The only thing we gotta set up now is the headlight. Then we gotta tuck everything up and we're good to go. So I think we can probably tuck up the stuff in the back, put the seat back on. The only thing we still need to work with is just the front. So let's go ahead and do that. Just tidy things up. Okay, so I'm running into some difficulties here with this wiring. The 3 wires that are dedicated for the headlight on the Tusk Enduro lighting kit harness, these don't actually have power. So these are supposed to tap into an existing power line for a headlight. So a lot of bikes have their own line that comes from their own electrical harness that goes to a headlight. These are supposed to tap into that, which then taps into your new headlight. So plugging these directly into the headlight is not going to do anything because there's no power here. So what we have to do is we have to basically tap into, take these and tap into our existing power somehow. Now I've seen one guy online, he scrapes away some of the rubber wrapping on this black and white wire, and then he connects copper to copper there and gets the power, and then he diverts that in different ways to get it to you know, everything to work. So I'm gonna look into that a little bit more and see if maybe that's the way we need to handle this. But I've tried connecting these to the headlight and you know, a variety of different ways, and no luck. I've also taken my you know, voltage meter, and you know, we're not getting anything out of here when I turn the battery on. So yeah. Okay. All right, so I'm just gonna walk you through what I had to do to get power to this headlight. So in the Tusk Enduro lighting kit, in the lighting harness, the main harness that goes through, you send it from the front to the back. Let me turn this off. It also connects, you also have a control switch up here that connects into this, right? Now on this control switch, you have a couple things. You have your headlight, you have your turn signals, and you have your horn. Okay, so your turn signals and your horn are tied into the main power of the harness. Your three wires for your headlight, which is main power, low beam, and high beam. There's 3 of them. There's the white, there's the black, and there's the blue. They do not have power. They're not powered.
So the way it's set up is generally you're putting this on a bike that already has a headlight and already has a main power source to a headlight. And so what these 3 wires are supposed to do is tap into your dirt bike's already existing main power for the headlight, and then that connects into your new headlight. If your dirt bike doesn't have a headlight, or any lights for that matter, like this CRF 250F, then you're not gonna have anywhere. You're not gonna be able to power the headlight off of just these 3 switches, these 3 wires from that control switch. So what you have to do is you basically have to connect back into the main harness to grab power to then bring it back to the headlight. So how I did that is I watched this video. I watched so many videos and scoured the internet to figure this out, bashing my head against the wall. And I finally found a video that after watching it the first time, it didn't make sense. But then after a lot of, research and trying to figure things out, I tried it out, and actually it's great. And I'll put a link in the description where you can check it out as well. But basically what you have to do is, all right, so you have your you have your main power, or not your main power, but you have your main wires to your headlight, right? So you have a positive and you have a negative. White is positive, black is negative. What you need to do is on your wire harness, your main source of power on the Tusk Enduro lighting kit, there is a black and white wire there, right? And that has power. That's coming from the main harness, coming from the battery, so that does have power. So what we need to do is we need to connect our headlight to that power source. So the positive black, or excuse me, the main headlight wire black, we need to connect to this black and white wire from the main harness. The white, which is the positive, we want to connect to whichever beam, low or high, that we want to that will turn on. So there's not more than 2 wires on this particular headlight, so I can't put the high and the low beam on this positive. Maybe I can. I haven't tested that out yet. Maybe I can, but I don't know if it would work with the switch because it's not diverted. So I just decided to put the high beam because I'd rather have, if I'm gonna have one, I'd rather have the high than the low, the more powerful. So I put the high beam on there. So I have high beam on there, and that's the high beam switch to there, and then I have power coming to there. Now, what I need to get power to the switch is I can use, in the Tusk Enduro lighting kit, there is a there's a wire for a front brake light, which is optional. I'm not hooking this up to a front brake light, so it was just going to be hanging out and in there anyway, not being used. So I can rob power off of it, and that's what I'm doing with this black wire, which is the black main wire for the headlight switch. So the headlight switch is getting power from the from the front brake wire that wasn't already being used, and the headlight itself is getting power off of the main harness from the Tusk Enduro kit. Okay, so I have power to the light from the battery, and I have power to the switch from the battery via the front brake switch, or front brake light. Okay, and I just tested it out. So if we turn this on, okay, so back lights are on. Now if I come over and I turn my headlights on to high beam, boom. Pretty freaking cool. So we got light to the headlight, and we can turn it off. So with this, since there's only I only have 2 wires coming from the headlight, I can only do low or high beam, so I just chose high beam. And then off, low beam is nothing, and that's that. Now I'm gonna try and connect the low beam to that as well, although I don't think it's gonna work, but let's see. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and maybe solder some of this just so it doesn't come off, and tape it up real good. Get it secure, and then we are good with that. And then the only other thing I need to do is just plug in my front indicators whenever my my new handguards that have the slot to put these in, they should be here today, and then I'm good to go. I do have a Speedo, a Vaportech speedometer, odometer, gauge that I do also want to put in, but I may include that in a different install.